So the other day I was doing my annual rewatch of my favorite Sex and the City episodes, and I couldn't help but think about the differences and similarities between being a 30-something woman living in the city in the 90s versus being a 20-something woman living in the city in the 2020s. While I definitely think we're more similar than we are different, I kept circling back to the idea of cell phones and communication, and not only how that has changed real life people's way of living, but it's also changed movies and TV shows and how those stories are told. Like, I feel the introduction of the cell phone has drastically changed the plot, the characters, and just how people interact with each other on the screen. Obviously, our modern realistic shows are a reflection of our times that we're in now. So why does it feel like everyone is more inclined and honestly resonates more with shows from the 90s, 80s, 2000s, like early 2000s even? Basically any show that was before there was an iPhone in it. Also, if you've seen any of my videos before, you know this isn't the usual setup for this type of conversation or like a video essay type of thing, but I just couldn't be darned to sit in my hard chair right now. And this is like a fun little topic. I kind of just want to like chat about it. I'm not here to like make a crazy point, but I just want to chat. So the first thing I want to talk about is miscommunication. Miscommunication between characters has always been and will always be one of the biggest conflict creators in media. In the past, it was simple as missing a phone call or having to run through the airport to tell someone that you love them because you can't get in contact with them any other way. But in modern times, it seems less realistic for someone to be missing phone calls, and even less realistic for people to be running through airports to tell someone they love them because they can't contact them any other way. And in my opinion, aside from the dramatic effect of it all, the reason we saw people missing phone calls more and running through the airport was because they didn't have a cell phone to pull out of their pocket as easily as we do now. In modern media, show creators have to get very creative with how they're going to have a character be without a phone if that is necessary to the plot, and how for their characters to be realistically without a phone. One of the popular methods is to just set a story in a different time to avoid the phones altogether. Sometimes not even only phones, but like any technology like it. Shows like Stranger Things, for example, was set in the 80s, not only to force the characters to have more disconnect between each other as the mystery unfolds, but it's also set right in the late phase of the Cold War, which was 1979 to 1985. The creators of the show looked to historical events like Project MK Ultra, which was created in 1953 by the CIA to basically learn how to mind control, which was the inspiration to like how Eleven got powers, which I actually like, instead of just having them be like, I don't know, she was just born like that, like she just has powers or something. Stranger Things could have easily been set in the 2020s because obviously kids are always going to be running around causing mischief, and like it's a fantasy show when it comes down to it, so like 2020 it could have worked. But it being set in the 80s really enhanced this miscommunication and disconnect between each other and the outside world when it came to the plot. It allowed the plot to have a lot more free reign. In general, the incorporation of cell phones in media, especially media that focuses around children as the main characters, makes it hard for show creators now to balance like what is realistic and how much you can get away with them not really having their phone for the purpose of the plot, because most children that I know are being heavily monitored with apps like Life 360. If you want your main characters to be running around, you can't really have Life 360 be a thing on their phone. You know what I need on my screen? I need a show or movie that has Life 360 in it, and the kid or the teenager just like throws their phone in a bush and leaves it there overnight to go do some like hooligan stuff, because so many people that I know ditch their phone in like a bush or like a mailbox to like not be tracked correctly. So I feel like that would be a very accurate depiction of getting rid of the phone. I think watching old shows or movies or things set in an older time really makes us more aware of the cultural difference of life before cell phones and life after cell phones. We often hear older people say it was safer back then when talking about how they used to go all day long without checking with their parents, or literally just like going on trips and no one knowing where they are. But I don't think that it was necessarily safer. I just think people were less aware of all the horrible shit that was happening around them because they didn't have a news alert going off every 5 minutes on their phone. This lack of awareness or lack of knowing what was really happening around you, I feel like really bleeds into a lot of the media of the time that was actually made in like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. If you've ever watched a show like Sex and the City, where a lot of it revolves around dating, I feel like it was really rare that the characters ever spoke to each other about like the dangers of meeting and dating people that they had no connection to in their personal life. Whereas now, I feel like in a lot of shows, if someone is going on a random on date, there's always another character that's gonna be like, I hope he's not a serial killer, or like make some joke like that to just kind of slyly put it in there. Because I think that's a normal way that people talk to each other about dating now, like being overly cautious about going on dates with people that they don't really know, or like that none of their friends know either, which is a good thing. I think it makes sense because people now more than ever are more aware that maybe you shouldn't go places totally alone where no one knows where you are. So to not include it in modern shows, I feel like wouldn't make sense. Whereas if you're watching something from the 80s, it's like, yeah, that you should just run away with some random man that you never met before. Anyways, changing the time period isn't always a simple solution though, as a lot of shows rely on it being set in the modern world to tell the story they want to tell. With this in mind, we have to turn to a new trope. That trope being the phone getting broken for some reason.
Shit, I'm not getting any service. You? Of course, damn it. No juice, phone's dead. I just smashed my phone with a hammer.
And honestly, I hate this, even though I know it's like logically the best way to get rid of a phone, because that's most likely what would happen to a phone if someone doesn't have it anymore. But I really hate it because I feel like as soon as I see a phone break, I'm like, oh wow, I bet they'll need that in a minute or two. And I love when modern movies have a phone in the story until like the perfect point. Like you don't have to get rid of the phone altogether. You just have to get rid of it at the right moment. Like in Booksmart, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But basically they have their phones and you can see them using their phones in a lot of the movie. And they use them as someone would use them normally. And then the plot gets rid of the phones at like a really good moment. And before, when they have the phones, I feel like in this movie they use the phones more of like a map puzzle piece sort of thing rather than just purely being like, I'm on Instagram, even though they are on Instagram, which genuinely enhances the story, even if like maybe in real life they could have used their phones more effectively when they had it. Movies and TV shows like Booksmart that don't totally dismiss the idea of having the phone in general, but just get rid of it at the right moment, I really appreciate, because it makes the loss of the phone more impactful. It's realistic. Like, yeah, your phone does always die at the worst possible moment. I would agree with that. There's a lot of ways that you can go at creating miscommunication in modern movies and TV shows, but I think it's just harder now, especially even viewers will be watching something and be like, why wouldn't you just Google that? Why wouldn't you just use your phone for that? Because we're so ingrained in our mind to immediately turn to our phone to fix our problem, whereas in movies you can't really do that. That's like the point of the whole like plot and conflict, you know? So I think we as viewers, when we watch something and we get annoyed because it's like, just use your phone, like it's kind of a harder time to be manufacturing miscommunication right now. Well, it's still possible to manufacture miscommunication. When I was watching Sex and the City and just thinking about older shows, I couldn't help but wonder if modern media like still has that same oomph when it comes to the miscommunication. And I feel like yes and no. When we watch movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is basically just kid runs wild because no one knows where he is, it doesn't feel realistic necessarily, but it's like believable. That might be kind of saying the same thing, but like kid even at that time probably couldn't have gotten away with everything that he got away with, but if that were to happen, I'd be like, yeah, like totally, like you could totally do that in the 80s or whenever that movie came out, especially with like the phone calls, how he called the principal and the principal was like like now the principal will be like, I have your caller ID, like I know this is you. Media now, in my opinion, just doesn't have as plausible of like miscommunication scenarios, just because we are so much more aware about what everyone around us is doing. When I think of one of my favorite and like easiest, stupidest, funniest ways that a show got rid of a phone was in Gossip Girl, when Serena just throws her phone in the garbage can and keeps walking. I honestly don't even know if like in the next episode she had her phone back or not, or if like she ran away. God, something so beautiful about watching someone just throw their phone in the garbage can and be able to fall off the face of the earth if they wanted to. I've also seen a lot of people online discuss as soon as they see an iPhone, it just like takes them out of the movie immediately, which I do agree with when it comes to watching people text in movies or TV shows, but I feel like it's probably because the phone isn't being used correctly rather than just like the fact that it's there. If you've ever seen 8th grade, it's about a young girl documenting herself online as she's kind of going through her early teen years, and she uses her phone throughout the whole movie, but it doesn't break the immersion at all, and it adds to her character and makes her more relatable. It shows her finding solace in her phone like so many people do, but also her character is so shy that you don't expect her to use her phone to like impress the girls or impress the boy, you know, like she uses her phone more as a personal diary type of thing rather than like cell phone. iPhones have only been around for like 20 years, and the way that we use the iPhone now has only been around for like 10 years as compared to the landline, which didn't have many upgrades over time and was used for so many more years than we've used the modern cell phone. So I think it'll take time before we see the iPhone and cell phones like it feeling normal in movies and TV shows. It's been a common consensus recently that rom-coms are dead. They always feel corny or like a One Direction Wattpad fan fiction, but not in a fun way.
Hey hon, good to see you. How you been? Fucking Trevor!
Off the top of my head, the only successful rom-com we've seen of recent years was Anyone But You, but I don't even think that movie was that popular because of the movie. It was popular because of the relationship that Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell had outside of filming. I didn't see Anyone But You, so I cannot confirm or deny if I think rom-coms are back or dead because of it, but that's just kind of what I've heard. So to talk about why I think rom-coms have been falling short recently, I feel like we have to go back and analyze why I think rom-coms are good, or at least why we have rose-colored glasses for them. In the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, the plot of rom-coms were very simple, fun, and seemed very natural. I don't want to say realistic because I think a part of rom-coms is that they're not necessarily realistic, but in the earlier rom-com days, I think it was just more probable that the scenarios would happen. In the past, meet cutes weren't just fun movie tropes, but they also happened to a lot of people in real life. Maybe not necessarily like a true meet cute, but at least like a meet cute at a bar type of way. People only existed within their direct surroundings. There was no social media or texting to access someone as soon as you wanted to talk to them. So you needed to be present in your dating life and the relationships you had, which is why I feel like these rom-coms feel more endearing, as this is a lot of modern people's like ideal way to meet someone is through a meet cute or just meeting someone in person. Meeting and connecting with someone in the past felt more like a unique chance rather than being able to connect with someone in 5 minutes on your phone. And when you apply this social norm to movies and TV shows, it makes the mundanity of life just feel like a little bit more beautiful, especially now that we don't see that happen as often. Another aspect of rom-coms that have changed over the years are the people that are casted in rom-coms. Maybe it's that film and television productions don't think that viewers want to watch regular ass people fall in love, but I feel like I haven't seen any rom-coms come out in the past few years that are like unknown actors that are just normal looking people. Like there's always got to be a celebrity in the mix somewhere when it comes to a rom-com, and I don't really understand why. And that's what I think a lot of people find endearing about old school rom-coms is they just looked like normal people. Like one of the most iconic rom-coms ever, When Harry Met Sally. Yes, Meg Ryan is a baddie and what the fuck is his name? And Billy Crystal, I can understand why people think he's attractive, but they look normal still. Like, yeah, they're really beautiful, but like still normal. I feel like we also only ever see like normal people falling in love when it comes to like teen shows, which is a good thing. I don't want my teen shows to be filled with a bunch of like 30-year-old celebrities. And I feel like because we lack so many like adult-based like romantic stories, that a lot of people really love to tune into the normal people like teen shows. And they're really popular, so I don't know why we can't see the connection of like, oh, people want to watch normal people fall in love too. For example, The Summer I Turned Pretty has had crazy success in this genre. While all the cast is obviously conventionally attractive, I don't think it's like out of the bounds of that would be someone that you know at the beach, you know? I personally love this show. I think it's very cute and very realistic, or at least what I imagine would be realistic for the scenario, which is one girl, two brothers, who should I love? Especially in the first season. The characters just feel so justly motivated when they interact with each other, and even though some of the acting is questionable, especially in the first season, it just triggers something deep in my teen girl heart, and that's how I know it's a good rom-com style show. As I was writing this, I was thinking about how well we haven't really had many good rom-com movies recently. We have had a lot of good rom-com type shows. And I feel like the reason why is because a lot of these big blockbuster type movies still feel like they need to fall into like the traditional rom-com tropes, which aren't really realistic anymore, which I think they need to like ditch this traditional rom-com structure and they need to delve into the new style of like modern rom-com, which I feel like a lot of these shows are doing. Well, there are a lot of difficulties with portraying the modern relationship because of the fact that a lot of people meet on social media, and it's not a bad thing. I just think it's harder to come across on a screen whenever like a lot of the relationship is happening on a phone. Not a lot, but like the initial like talking and early dating things are usually done through texting now. But I don't think it's like an all hope is lost thing when it comes to like showing modern dating in movies and TV shows. Because trying to recreate when Harry met Sally in this day and age just isn't gonna work for many reasons. So we just need someone to get behind the camera and create the new age version of Harry Met Sally to get this ball rolling. Along the lines of the rom-com, different topic now though, I love watching two characters secretly yearning for each other, trying their best to go out of their way to see their crush, daydreaming about having the time to get to know that special someone. Yeah, I feel like that's not so much a thing anymore. And I feel that way because we're all so accessible to each other all the time because of our phone. This change of pace in how relationships develop has given us little time to be delusional about each other. For most people, as soon as we meet someone who we potentially want to date, we immediately go to stalking their social media.
That's his mom.
Seeing who their friends are, seeing what they like to do, and before you know it, now you know what their grandma did on her birthday from Facebook. This is definitely good in many ways to make sure that someone isn't a weirdo, for lack of a better word, before you get to meet them or get to know them. But this can also potentially ruin your chance to get to know someone at a slower pace, and this slow burn is a very traditional trope in a lot of old school rom-coms. The normalcy of stalking someone on social media now would basically kill half the plot of some of our favorite rom-coms. Like imagine if in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Ben was able to just Google Andy and figure out that she was like a dating columnist. I feel like he maybe would have picked up on what was happening a little bit faster. Or think about Carrie from Sex and the City, like she would have known that Big got married because she would have been stalking his social media religiously. A part of the charm of these old movies is watching characters navigate the uncertainty when it comes to dating. Not knowing when your next date would even be, or the idea of would they even call you? You had no way unless you called them first, which you can't do that. Now, I think it's like an expectation that you're gonna text someone after you go on a date. Maybe not constantly, but just like enough to show that you're into them. There's no middle ground time. These movies just existed on a slower timeline. I think a lot of people get insecure when someone doesn't text them back fast enough in the early stages of dating because it's like, well, they haven't answered me in 30 minutes, I guess they fucking hate me now. And while I do think in general we're better off that we're able to communicate much easier with each other rather than being stuck with just a landline, there is something I crave about being able to leave my house, no phone, and then I come back and I go boop, and I listen to my messages that people leave me. That just sounds wonderful. I also feel like another classic rom-com trope, which is like, you shouldn't be with that person, you should be with this person because that person's cheating on you, but you don't know that yet, is really hard to have when it comes to modern movies because of the phone. Number one, it's way easier to figure out that your partner is cheating on you nowadays because of social media, and usually it happens somewhat through social media. I'm waiting for a modern movie one day to have a hey girl text in it, and that's when I know that we were at a realistic point of rom-coms. Two, I think it's a lot easier, especially when it comes to online dating, to see the red flags like way sooner, like within the profiles themselves sometimes even. And being able to tell this information has probably stopped a lot of really horrible first dates from happening. But we need these bad first dates to make funny plot lines in movies. Bad dates, in my opinion, will always make a better story than a good date unless something really horrible happens to you on the bad first date. But if we're talking general bad first date versus general good first date, bad first date is always going to be more entertaining. Anyways, on to my next point. I also think it's much more convincing and easier to see character growth when someone is talking over the phone rather than when they're texting. In past movies and TV shows, if there was a phone, typically they're talking on the phone. You can see their faces, you can hear their voices, you can really feel the chemistry between the two people even if they're talking over the phone, which is different than the modern rom-com, and I hate this. When people get attacked and they're like, it's like, girl, that did nothing for me. That did absolutely fucking nothing for me. You read something on a screen and so did I, and I don't feel any different than I did 30 seconds ago. Also, side note here, I absolutely hate texting in movies. I'd rather watch someone be on social media or like FaceTiming because at least sometimes they get it right and it looks like somewhat realistic, but we have still yet to fix the texting problem. It's either bubbles on the screen that look not correct, or it's an actual screenshot or like video of a phone, and then you can never read that fast enough. I cannot read that fast. Like, it has to be like 3 sentences max for me to read something when it's flashed on the screen for about 10 seconds. Anyways, my point with this section is essentially to point out this accessibility to each other has forced the rom-com genre to shift. Like I said, basically half of the plots of like old films and TV shows that are the rom-com genre, the plot kind of evaporates as soon as you add a cell phone into the mix. The plots in the past felt like something that could actually happen to a person, and the communication or the miscommunication of it all reminds us of a time in the past where if we didn't want to see someone ever again, we really didn't have to. There was no way that they could contact you unless they saw you on the street. This section's gonna be really fucking short because there's not that much to it, to be quite honest, but I thought I should bring it up. The bully. The bully in old movies and TV shows was like the person that's giving you swirlies in the toilet at school. And now the bully is like, I'm sending you anonymous TikTok hate about how everyone hates you. Well, it's not like there's a better version of the bully than the other because they both are like, this is traumatizing behavior, watch out for it. But it is interesting to me how the bully used to be like a big plot point, and now it's not like some person, like some third person that's there. It's like an anonymous text. And I would say actually 2 older-ish shows are Pretty Little Liars and Gossip Girl. They are like, could be a good metaphor for like the new age bully where it's just like some anonymous person sending out messages and ruining your life. Obviously those shows are more like mystery vibe as compared to like the sitcom version of it. I really feel like I haven't seen any modern media that tackles bullying necessarily, just because how do you even show that on the screen aside from like the movie Cyberbully? I don't mean to laugh, that movie is sad as hell. I don't know. Will we see a modern bully? Who knows? Maybe. Anyways, to kind of wrap it up here, I think this will be a bit of a shorter video because I feel like the way that cell phones have changed media is just kind of how people have changed, which has then changed media. Our phones are an extension of ourselves nowadays. So when we see them, and even if they feel misplaced in movies, it's still typically pretty realistic. And I think it's just hard for these movie creators to kind of deal with this idea of like, now we have this other thing when it comes to people. Our brains instinctively turn to them as soon as we have a problem arise, so why wouldn't our characters do that as well if we want it to be realistic? But obviously we can't have that because then there's nothing to be done in the movie or the TV show. I would say the main thing that cell phones have changed when it comes to media is our accessibility, which I talked about at length obviously, and it's hard to pick and choose when you want to incorporate them to make it feel realistic versus getting rid of them to push the plot along. I also think it's funny that in like 20 so years from now, we're gonna be watching our 2020s media and being like, oh, the iPhone, remember the iPhone? Life was so simple when we just had the iPhone, which we'll say while we wear our mandated Meta headset and can't take them off or else we'll get arrested. I literally said in this video, like, the landline. Imagine if I only had a landline, I'd be so free. And if you were in the 90s, you'd be like, this fucking phone. I don't know, I think I just wanted to yap a little bit tonight. I hope this made any sense. So thank you for watching, like and subscribe down below. Bye.